All right. Good evening, lords and lady. This is, I think, episode 45 of the Game of Thrones Dynasty Fantasy Football podcast. Your host tonight, Iron Bank. Just because we like switching it up and because we love Google Hangouts. So, for those of you following along on the YouTube link, welcome. Glad to have you here. We also have one of our regular hosts, Eric of the Children of the Forest, the 14-0 Children of the Forest. How you doing, Eric?
We're getting a little nervous over here for our first playoff matchup. Now, coming in to the season, I had expectations, but they weren't this high. And having to go against Free Folk again has me a little bit scared because, just a one and done. It's like it didn't even matter. 14 wins for what? So I'm a little nervous.
It's a tough spot to be in, I'll be honest. I went undefeated once I had 2 ties in there, so it doesn't really match what you've accomplished this year. But I ended up losing my first playoff matchup, so good luck to you, and hopefully it's a little bit better off. Also, guest hosting this week, we've got the Old Town Maesters. Justin, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing well.
Hey,
I'm Team Rugrats. Go Children.
Woohoo!
That's right. You did declare for the Children earlier on chat. So we've had a couple declaring for Free Folk and a couple
declared for Liege.
And as another guest host this week, we have someone who's very familiar with going up against Free Folk. We have House Greyjoy, or Fred Travis, man of many names. How are we doing, Fred?
Cheers. Got a Stone Enjoy by Christmas in my glass tonight, so I'm going to enjoy it by Christmas.
Cheers. I've got a Jack Daniels, and I will enjoy it by tonight.
So I'm here mostly to talk about Marvel and D96 and Raz and It's Always Sunny. All the other leagues are done, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I don't think there's anything going on with those. But I'm very glad to have lucked into the wild card here. I had the perfect set of those tiebreakers, but we'll get to that later. Also, it looks like the man with no voice is joining as well, although I'm not sure with no video and no voice how he's going to comment. Lewis, you alive?
I'm sick. Where's Jeremy at?
Well, Jeremy is taking care of kids, apparently. So, what else is new?
Nothing. I'm just here. I have my fantasy football handy-dandy notebook here. And from last week, I've got Dez written down. Dez plus Dak equals blank amount of points. So the answer was I don't even know, but it's 32 points. And I just wanted to let House Harding know because he was bragging about whatever his choice was the right choice or whatever. But the 2 guys he started instead were Jimmy Graham and Demaryius Thomas, and they scored about 14 points. So just wanted to let everybody know I was right.
Oh, absolutely, and I'm glad you're here because I will take any pearls of wisdom that I can get, and I think all of us will, because those of us who had buys were excited to have them, but now we've got some tough matchups coming up here. But anyways, we'll jump into those matchups from last week and talk a little bit about how they went, thoughts about the matchups. But so we've got Fred Travis here, and it was by all standards one of the highest scoring matchups, if not the highest scoring matchup of the year. Free Folk against House Greyjoy. Fred, what are your thoughts here? I mean, tough loss, but great showing by the team.
It came up short, and I don't think, no matter how I would have parsed it, I couldn't have put the right lineup out there. Maybe, by some perfect stretch, but I tip my hat to Free Folk. He was able to nullify Reek, and that really was the difference. When he blows up, I win, except when he's also playing against me.
No, fair. But I mean, 137 points is pretty incredible. it was down to whether AB was going to play or not. And judging from some of the photos of his foot, it looked like there was a real chance he wasn't going to. But you know, the rivalry means a ton, and he made it in. And frankly, if we look at Free Folk, he got pretty much career showings out of a lot of players. That the price he paid for Ingram seems to be well worth it. Otherwise, I don't know if he would have kept pace. And again, this is one of those annoying parts about NFL. It would come off because of Lynch and Mike Wallace that, oh, Greyjoy could have won. But you're not going to start Mike Wallace over Adam Thielen, and since you're kind of shooting the moon here, you're not going to start Marshawn Lynch over either of those running backs. So,
yeah, I think that was the real question at the end. I second guessing myself. I made the trade at the deadline to pick up Lynch. He was playing the sorry-ass Giants. His wide receivers were out, and I kind of went back and forth on that one all week long, and ended up deciding that Hyde has been playing pretty well, and he was also playing against a bad team with a quarterback who was starting his first game, so I thought they were going to lean a little more heavily on him.
That's fair. So, any other thoughts about Free Folk versus Greyjoy?
Yeah, Free Folk put up 100 points.
I just hit the wizard cheese. So.
Was that? Justin, I think you said something.
Oh, I hit the Richard Cheese Lounge machine. Clicky thing. God damn it! I hit it again. There we go.
Is that always within reach?
Thank you for the Richard Cheese, Greyjoy. Oh, it is. It's like it's one of my tabs. I'm a tab guy. I got like right now. Let me close some shit out. Sorry. Yeah, I think he could have started Marshawn Lynch over Deion Lewis and Jason Witten over whatever tight end he started. Like those are toss-up plays, a floor versus ceiling that the home field advantage could trickle with. I don't think you can dismiss that lineup decision so easily. Thanks.
Gotcha. So before Eric jumps in, Fred, I'm just noticing your T-shirt. Fred's Gone Wild?
I thought I might as well tell Louis what my real name is.
Oh, huge reveal here. Okay, what is the real name?
It's Fred's Gone Wild.
Fred's Gone Wild. There you go. Congratulations. And second reason for joining the podcast.
I won't remember that.
That's all right. I'll remind you again.
Well, that's why it's a good thing that we're not recording this and posting it or anything else like that. Eric, what do you think about the matchup?
Yeah, it's scary that Free Folk has just put up 150. I don't have the Tyreek Hill to, I guess, counteract him. So hopefully, he doesn't usually go that high. So hopefully, he had a big week, so he dies down. But yeah, 150 points. And so if we can't look at Tyreek Hill since that was a wash, I guess the big difference was that he had Antonio Brown and Mark Ingram score in the 20s. Well, besides Larry Fitzgerald, all your flex plays really didn't pan out too well. So in the end, Lynch was the big play. You would have needed to make another start over Lynch, Mr. Greyjoy, but I don't blame you for setting that lineup. It was just a little rough luck. And you went against the highest scoring team. You would have beat anybody else besides maybe Harding too. The ice is just it's a dogfight.
Who you traded Aaron Rodgers? Did you start all the players that you picked up in that Aaron Rodgers deal?
I don't think so. No.
But it was you
I
picked up Thielen and Hyde.
Right, and Hyde.
So just those two from the deal. And those seem to be the two that let you down.
Yeah. It's not like Rodgers was going to help me this week.
Right, I agree. But in looking back at it now, my TV shut off. Do you think you'd rather have Rodgers?
Well, anytime you can have the best or a top three quarterback, you always want that. I was looking at some of the comments after I made the trade, and one of the ones that I kind of agreed with was that, or it was in the podcast last week after the trade deadline, kind of rebuilding my team while also being in the playoffs. This team has some age on it, and I did what I could to put up points to compete right now, and did a bang up job of it, just not quite enough. So without Rodgers on my team, I liked the pickup of Mahomes just because of his potential. I don't own him anywhere else, but I thought this was a really good opportunity to get a share. And between him and Thielen, who probably is a top 15 wide receiver right now going forward, it seemed like a decent return. So, Hyde is Hyde. He's middle of the pack for low end running back one, maybe a high running back two. But he gets the job done, and he's certainly a lot younger than some of the other guys I got.
Right, and then I think the other thing I was trying to see if
what else you
traded away. Yeah, I was trying to see what else you traded away. Just
Jordy.
Curious to see. So none of those guys played. I was just seeing if you would have kept those other players if you had won. But Martin was out. I don't think Jordy had a good week. I could be wrong.
No,
Rodgers obviously didn't play, and Matt Bright does not. All right, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and again,
Charles didn't do anything.
Like I said, it's a rebuild on the fly. If things go bad with Ben and he retires, then Mahomes steps right in, and you've got depth at every other position. So I think you're still in the hunt, especially considering the state of the Iron Islands and Riverlands. I mean, Brotherhood's still a year or two away. Woods is still a year or two away. Tully's rising, but we're still in the hunt. So still very well done.
Question of whether I think I can compete with Tully next year for the division. It's up in the air right now. I don't know what's going to happen between obviously now and the draft, or what direction I decide I want to take after the league rolls over into next year. We'll see.
You also, that division, you got two guys in a massive rebuilding situation, and right now it doesn't look like they have a way out. Woe definitely has some assets where he could field a team that's okay, but I think he's really just trying to gain more assets rather than compete now. And I think Brotherhood's team is a mess. I don't know what he plans on doing. So even if you don't have the team you want, you kind of ramp it to be younger. I think you got 4 wins already. And 4 wins is huge going into a season where, we all picked you to win the division, and you somehow pulled it off, but it was a lot closer than anyone thought. But so I think you can keep the streak alive. I don't think there's any reason to do anything rash with your team.
But lots of time for that. Anyways, over to the other ice matchup. Shockingly, another of the Beyond the Wall teams. House Hardy versus House Royce. And
no, that wasn't Beyond the Wall.
Wasn't Beyond the Wall? Oh, that's right. That's Vale.
Right.
A Vale matchup. One of the few. Anyways, Hardy whooped the shit out of Evan, so didn't really even need home foot advantage. Basically, everyone had an ass-kicking fiesta except for Demaryius Thomas. It wasn't necessarily one of those where it was ever in doubt whether he was going to win. It was going to be a matter of how much was he going to win by. Anyone thoughts about this one?
He could have won with Joe Flacco. That tells you everything you need to know.
He could have won more with Joe Flacco if he would have sat Demaryius Thomas and put in Flacco.
If we're looking at Evan's team, he didn't really have a tight end for a playoff team. I would have started ASJ. It actually wouldn't have helped him over O.J. Howard. Mike Evans has been struggling for God knows what reason, because he just played the Packers. And if you can't beat anybody in the Packers secondary, there's something wrong. I can tell you that much, because receivers will rip them apart. And you're looking at it like he started Blaine Gabbert in the playoffs. I mean, if you guys have ever been in a playoffs of any league, you're not starting Blaine Gabbert. So I think Evan knew he was, in a little bit over his head. He had some good performances that got him 100 points, which, I mean, you could look at every team that didn't make the playoffs. A lot of them didn't score 100 points. So he is one of the better teams, but, some injuries really hurt him this year. And he was clearly the sixth team in the ice and the underdog, but there's no way he was taking down Harding this week.
Yeah.
Oops, go ahead, Bryce.
No, I was gonna say, I think he was one of those, like, I don't know if reluctant to make playoffs is the right word, but he obviously backed into that spot. His pick would have been, I think, like 109, the first 109. So whatever that is overall, 17th overall. But I think he was one of those. I think we were, at least I know I was trying to, get him to make a move before the deadline. Probably because I wanted to have take some of my players and pay me, a premium for that. But he stood pat, which obviously, now looking at it was the right thing to do because even if he did make a small move or even a big one, I don't think he would have closed what did it end up being, like almost a 50-point gap?
42, yeah. So pretty much 50.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and again, it's I don't know if any of you guys read Bill Simmons or did from back in the day, but I think he described the NBA at a certain point as purgatory, where you're kind of that 7 or 8 seed in the playoffs, where you're good enough to make the playoffs, but not good enough where you're good enough to just miss the playoffs and not really get an impact player from it. Really, it looked like Evan has been in that position the last 2 years. So he's been good enough to make the playoffs, I think, both years in this league, but not good enough to really advance in the playoffs. So the question really becomes, how does he get out of purgatory? Does he sell an asset to make a push next year? He has really prided himself on the youth of his team to get himself into contention, or does he take guys like Kirk Cousins, Jameson Crowder, kind of split them up, see what he can break up Mike Evans for, Michael Thomas for, etc., and say, look, I'm going to suck for a year, but I'm going to come back strong and be a team in the Vale because right now I can be a team in the Vale, but I'm not going to overtake Harding, and I'm not going to win when I get to the playoffs because I don't have the depth if something happens to Zeke.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at outside of Zeke, he doesn't have the depth at quarterback. Obviously, he started Gabbert. His other options, Cutler or Geno Smith. So I doubt you have that luxury next season. So he really only has one quarterback. He lucked out immensely with Alex Collins this year. He's done phenomenal. So has Kenyon Drake ever since Jay's been traded. So this could be a team that, I would go out and say it probably doesn't make playoffs next year. And I don't think it'll even be close. Simply because what we've seen from, Kelvin Benjamin, Jordan Matthews, especially, those two, are that they might not do much for him, and they've got probably a perceived value that's higher than what they're actually worth. So I'm not sure if he could move those two for something that's going to help him. And if that happens, then you're down to what you said, where you really only have a Mike Evans or a Mike Thomas to trade away to break down it and hope that you hit on something that's better than the rest of what he's got here.
Yeah, the interesting thing about his team this year is that he got in the playoffs as the seed for most points, but he was actually sixth most points of the playoff teams. So he was fighting an uphill battle to begin with, and he was always going to be playing against teams that outscored him if he did anything in the playoffs. He's halfway there. I mean, he's got 4 very good starters, 4, I would almost say 4 outstanding starters, but absolutely nothing else other than just playing for breaks.
Yeah, and so the other thing I actually wanted to – oops, go ahead, Justin. Sorry. You're a little slow. Go ahead.
Lewis. Fuck's sake. If you put Case Keenum on this team, what's better is it? Right? Because he had Sam Bradford go down pretty early on, and that's a tough hole to 16 super with Cutler. But if Case Keenum's on here instead of Bradford, just still there.
I mean, his team gets a little bit better, but there's still the elite players that are supposed to be carrying your team are suspended or underperforming, and
that's bad luck.
I mean, it's bad luck. But did you see anything from Michael Thomas this year that expected he was going to be huge? What?
Well, I mean, this is
consistent.
Anyone who didn't think Michael Thomas was going to have a bit of a regression year after going from a wide receiver 2 to a wide receiver 1 position in a team that's shifting more towards the run wasn't reading the tea leaves here.
No, but he even with they had all these running backs, you still expected Drew Brees to be one of the more higher volume passers because he always is. And for this year, for the first time in a long time, he wasn't. So Michael Thomas didn't put up those numbers that you expected. He still had a fine season, but Mike Evans struggled. Zeke had the suspension, which he was aware of all year. Maybe he went into this year thinking, who gives a shit? This isn't my year. Because I own Zeke in a couple leagues, and my whole feeling was I'm selling the rest of the team, trying to get value and just play for the year after because this suspension sucks. And it truly sucked for these owners.
Well, the funny thing here is, two pieces. One, Justin, for your point on Case Keenum, he puts up 17. So him versus Blaine Gabbert, which was 10, is not enough to really help. But going back again, maybe I think your point is more towards what would it be from a season-wide perspective if he had Case Keenum maybe from week 7 on? Is he in a higher seed and potentially in a better position here? You saw, I think, a situation last year where Zeke got traded right before the deadline, and it's going to be interesting to see what could he have pulled from Zeke. I'll go ahead and say as much right now. When I traded TJ, I was offering him for some of the top running backs in the league. Could he have offered Zeke to Swan for Le'Veon Bell? Could he have given him to Justin for Leonard Fournette and something? Could he have gone out and gotten another elite producer at that position to improve, plus something to get him into this? And it's one of those things where I admire what Travis did, Fred did, because I'm sorry, Fred, Travis, whatever. I admire what he did because very few teams have the guts to actually push him and say, no, I'm going to try and win this week. I'm going to try and win, get into the playoffs, not just get into the playoffs, but win in the playoffs and make something of the fact that I'm here. He didn't, but, he's going to be stuck with the woulda, shoulda, coulda of that. Again, looking at it, running back wasn't his weak spot. His elite receivers were, and his tight ends of the future were, but it's one of those where you kind of have quarterbacks going one way, and running backs going one way, receivers going the other. I'm not sure about this team going forward. Anyways, we spent a lot of time on it. Any last thoughts about this matchup?
Yes. No, not really this matchup. Somebody's echoing. But White Walkers. So I was looking because he obviously would have been the team. If Evan had missed the playoffs, White Walkers would have been in there. White Walkers only put up 108 points, but I don't think he set a lineup. He was talking about he wasn't able to get on MFL, and obviously started at Greg Olson, who was inactive for the game. And then there's a couple other things here. I don't know if he starts T.Y. Hilton. you would think that he puts probably Julius Thomas in the Greg Olsen spot because he has been all year. Matt Forte put up 17 points. Bilal Powell put up 12. So maybe if he had tinkered to make the right moves, he could have put up a shot. But I was kind of doing the math, and I think he still ends up at best probably 12 points short of beating Aaron. So our reigning champ would have been knocked out of the first round of the playoffs as well had he actually made it.
No, that's true. And, Harding's one of the top teams in the division for a reason. He's shown it all year and showed it again in the first round of the playoffs.
Yep. And he's quite dandy.
Absolutely. All right. Let's move over to the Fire side of things, where it's a little bit less impressive in terms of the scoring performances and a little bit closer in terms of the matchups. So we'll start with the higher scoring matchup. Lannister versus Targaryen. Lannister being the team that did not have home field advantage, won by about 10 here. So home field kept this closer than it would have been otherwise. But again, kind of an interesting matchup considering Matt Ryan not really showing up for Targaryen. Lannister's trying one quarterback, still getting over 100 on his side, and then Targaryen getting let down by Evans, Diggs, and actually half his lineup scored less than 10 points. What else do we think about this matchup?
Yeah, when it comes down to it, when you're looking at Targaryen's team, the same people that disappointed him all season long and made his division a struggle to win killed him in the playoffs. And that's Mike Evans, who we talked about earlier, DeMarco Murray, who hasn't been consistent at all, Matt Ryan, who not only has he regressed to the mean, but he actually looks worse than what the mean would actually be for that team. And Stephon Diggs, who started off really hot and kind of faded after Thielen's emergence, even though the Vikings just didn't have a great day offensively. So you look at, these four assets that you're like, besides DeMarco Murray, they're young, they're guys that are being great in the league, and for some reason they underperformed this year, and it killed them all year, and it killed them this week.
Yeah, he got kind of snake bit by the Atlanta-Minnesota matchup this week. I don't think that was ever going to be a high-scoring game.
Right.
And he had both Ryan and Diggs playing in that. It seems like Diggs comes out and plays hot the first half of every year and then just fades away, whether it's injuries or whatever. But Ryan had been playing well for the last couple of weeks or several, and ran into a buzzsaw. I mean, Minnesota's defense is for real.
Yeah, and then the other thing here, I don't know if I missed what Mike said at the beginning, but for Lannister, I think when we all did the pod last week, we were talking the Michael Crabtree suspension probably being the end of Lannister because he doesn't really have a whole lot of depth. But since we had put that out, the Packers put Ty Montgomery on IR, and Jamal Williams got the start, I think. Eric's a Packer fan, so he'd probably know more, but I think he got the start and put up 20 points where I don't know if you'd have gotten that out of Crabtree, maybe not a guarantee, but I think that last minute designation of Ty Montgomery to IR and then Jamal Williams getting the go ahead really saved Lannister. Otherwise he definitely loses, even with the the downfalls, as Eric said, of House Targaryen.
Yeah, and I mean, House Egan probably was loving House Lannister's team outside of Crabtree. Well, with Crabtree suspended, there's really no choice in terms of this lineup. It's pretty much straightforward of, I'm going to start these guys because there's no real question or concern about who else to start, except for maybe like Eric Decker at receiver, but he hasn't done anything all year.
He's on the IR.
He's on the IR now?
Isn't he? Oh, no. Never mind. Thinking of last year.
Good work, Travis.
I'm all over it.
So, Fred, I'm going to indoctrinate you into a tradition of my friends where anytime we do something like that, we tell each other to drink for stupid. So I know it's going to be painful for you, but please drink for stupid. No, enjoy. Well done. But yeah, he's got pretty much this is his lineup, and there's not much else or other thought to go into it. He may have a little bit of choice next week with Crabtree back in terms of who he plugs in, but otherwise, what you see is kind of what you get.
Yeah, and just to talk about that Packers running back situation, all the Jamal Williams fans are sitting there like, looks like Aaron Jones is limited. This is good. Jamal Williams is playing well. This is great. He's probably going to maintain the position. They give Aaron Jones the ball, I don't know if it was the first time. It was one of the first times on the last play of the game, and he's able to bounce a run outside for 30 yards in overtime and score a touchdown. So I think, and this is going to be weird for any Packers fan to listen to this, mini situation where we have multiple good running backs in Green Bay, which is great for Green Bay fans, but unfortunately for fantasy owners, it's going to be tough to rely on any Green Bay running back week to week. For Lannister right now, he's got Duke Johnson as his only really other option at running back, and he's able to get Crabtree, but he's still got Cup in the lineup, who's not a must start. So I guess it's between Duke Johnson, Jamal Williams, and Cup. Start two, and it's not a great situation for a playoff team to be in.
Justin, you have to talk for them to see your screen. So you're holding up your, I think, beer.
Well,
they can see it, but you've got to talk so that you pop up and they can see it.
No, they can actually see the thumbnails, so they can still see that.
Warped Ring Pierogi. It's a Belgian triple. How do you say that, Greyjoy?
Triple.
One of my faves. Triples. They're a good brew.
Delicious.
Very old beer. Monks made it.
Mike, you forgot to grow facial hair for the podcast.
This is an all facial hair podcast.
This is what happens when I don't shave for a week. Anyways, Justin, it looks like whoever else is on your Wi-Fi seems to have logged off. So we're getting some good feedback from you.
Woohoo! Yeah, I switched to this wired thing. What's up? Oh, this matchup. So what was this one? Because I think Lannister team sucks, and Tard kind of screwed here. But
I don't know with the original.
The original projection was 102 to 112.
Yeah. So it flipped. It was a
20-point.
Yep.
Thing. Yeah. Yeah, Lannister, he lucked his way into the playoffs with this shit show. This is what my roster would look like if I had made the playoffs. 8 guys I could start and a bunch of zeros on the bench. Good luck, buddy.
Well, I hope House Lannister has a safe travel to the port of Bravos next week for our matchup. But anyways, we'll get to the matchups.
Is he playing you next week?
Yes, but we'll finish up our last of the matchups before we jump into next week. Of course, it's everyone on this podcast's favorite team, House Tyrell, against the sneaky of the Sand Snakes. And House Tyrell, once again, put down a team that probably others thought he was undermatched against. But again, Tyrell advances in the playoffs for a second straight year from a play-in position. And Sand Snakes is out.
Okay, let's be honest here. Tyrell didn't put the Sand Snakes down. They put themselves down. 86 points in a playoff game.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. However, Robbie Anderson outscored Devontae Parker by enough to beat Sand Snakes.
Oof. Well, the question I had here was...
So way to go.
Was Sand Snakes traded, I think, a third for Jay Cutler right before the deadline? So if you put Cutler in over, say, Randall Cobb, it's a 1-point game. So why do you trade a third-round pick for a player you're not going to start, especially if you're Sand Snakes? Because again, Cobb not performing anything pretty much killed him. But and Cook basically being injured and not doing anything really hurt as well. But why trade for a player to be your second quarterback and then not start that player? That was puzzling to me.
Yeah, this is a little weird of a lineup.
Very.
I looked at it. I agree that, if you are buying Cutler, he needs to be in there. And then
Yeah,
I'm
Cobb's
not
the
sure.
bench.
I'm not sure why he didn't start Witten. I think Witten's been one of the. I want to say he's been top 5 all year, with the exception of maybe the last week or two. He's fallen off a little bit, but he's right up there. So why you wouldn't start him just to begin with? That's another 6 points. If
Cook
you
was
start,
a DFS darling this week, so
Yeah.
that's why he's in there.
Well, I mean, the Giants have been getting destroyed by tight ends all year,
Right.
except for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So
yeah, but the whole lineup is. It looks like it's just a little pretty. It's overthought. I don't know what Ted Ginn's doing in there. I would think that's where you start Cutler over Ginn. And then you look at Cobb and Green Bay wide receivers as a whole, outside of Devontae Adams, have been absolutely terrible with Hudley. So I'm not sure that I would have been confident in starting Cobb for a playoff roster. So if you make those moves, Ginn, you swap Ginn and Cutler, you play really any of your other wide receivers on your team instead of Cobb, and then you play the tight end. I'm curious. I'm going to go back and look now and see what tight end he's been playing all year. But I want to say it would have to be Witten, just because that just makes too much sense.
This is a classic example of chasing points.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cobb
and he didn't need to against Tyrell.
No, Cobb and Ginn both had good weeks last week, and they hadn't been having those kind of weeks leading up to that. I don't know. I don't know if I was staring at this roster, what choices I would make, but I would think that Cobb and Ginn would be fairly far down my list.
Sand Snakes, get in group me and defend yourself. Otherwise, we're done with you.
Okay, so I looked real quick, and he had been starting Jason Witten up to week 10, and then for some reason, I don't know when Dallas is. Did they have a bye week 11?
Eric, when did Dallas get a bye week? You would know this.
Dallas was bye week 6.
Okay, so that throws that out there. But for whatever reason, starting in week 11, he flipped over and started to use Jared Cook, and so he got 5 points week 11. I don't even think he got a full point week 12. Let's see here. So 5 points week 11, 0.95 points week 12, and then first round of the playoffs he kept him in as well, and we saw the result that he got this week. So that's about 7 or 8 points in 3 weeks out of a tight end for a playoff team. That's what killed him.
So, all right. Well, great feedback on these teams. Any last thoughts before we end up on this wild card round?
Yeah, one thing I want to say. A lot of people were hot on Jared Cook this week. There was a couple big receivers named Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree weren't playing for Oakland, so someone had to catch the ball. That was the feeling. And Jared Cook has caught the ball before. So they were thinking Jared Cook's, going to be a big target guy. So even though he hasn't done well in the past, due to the situation, most people thought he would do much better than, one catch. So that's why he started him. So I could see why the weeks before maybe not, but I mean, Julius Thomas wasn't really that hot of a tight end. Jason Witten, he only had one catch. It just happened to be for a touchdown. So you can't really blame him for the Cook start, in my opinion, at least.
No, and if I remember correctly, Cook got knocked out with an injury in the game. Of course.
Oh, I didn't know.
his Giants were on around here. I think he got hit near the sideline and was out for a good portion of the first half. I don't know if he came back in the second after that catch. But point is, he did not live up to expectations, and I'm not sure if it was injured early or just, because the Giants had finally realized, there's a tight end, maybe we should cover it.
You know who did well on Sunday without Crabtree or Collins or Cook in the game?
Cordero Patterson.
Hashtag Holton.
Both did very well.
I think Cordero Patterson was their leading wide receiver.
He was. Holton put up another 10 points himself. But I got a little shit from Louis for bidding all my points on him in the free agent pool. But, it's
if
left.
you would have started him, you would have won. So
maybe.
No, I'm just kidding.
So that wraps up our wild card coverage. Let's touch on a couple of the constellation games real fast. Maesters, we'll touch on yours real quick, but because only 6 players were started by Brotherhood. Seriously, come on, get Brotherhood in check here. I mean, it's one thing not to start a starting lineup, but 6 out of the 8 players, this is bad. But either way, it's a win by Maesters, so good for you, Justin.
Thank you. I checked out of this league. See what's going on. So Swan.
At least you didn't unlink.
No, that's next year. Swan, you are going down next week. Jimmy Garoppolo, when you should be starting Simeon, and you're going to make bad decisions. Sorry.
Yep. By the way, update on the ticket that I filed with MFL. So a little bit of background for those not following group, maybe because of the way that MFL handles their seedings, they're completely wrong. So I've asked, could they have their programmers look at them? And after 4 back and forths with the MFL, coordinator person, they're finally having their programmers look at it. So hopefully next year it won't be as sucky. And actually,
they just told you that. Do you have a number?
What do you mean?
A ticket number.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. We need regular updates.
Yep.
Good preseason was my pick for Castamere. He barely made it out of being Castamered. Thought he would be.
All right. Lightning round. Some of the rest of these. I don't think they're on the cast. Beware over Mormont. I don't think that's wildly, surprising to anyone here. Just kind of the distance of the win of 23 points. Probably people are expecting more. Night's Watch, I think, was the only upset of the constellation bracket, being House Stark. Egan beats Hightower. Again, Hightower only started 7 guys. I recognize that you're out of the playoffs, Hightower, but come on, at least start a full lineup. Walker's crushed Baratheon because, Baratheon being crushed.
He was like 2 points away from making the playoffs, and he goes into the loser bracket facing one of the Casimir teams. So that's how this league kind of works. And to be fair, White Walkers is a much better team than 4-11. And I mean, look at the constellation bracket. There's 2 teams that put over 100 points. Both of them are Casterly barely put over 100, but still both beyond the wall. It's a dogfight out here. It sucks.
Casterly's not beyond the wall.
He's the only other constellation team that put over 100 points that had a matchup this week.
Oh, well.
Besides the beyond the wall people.
Science.
Well, the losers bracket, the Trial of the 7, has some great matchups this week. So I'm really glad that it worked out the way that it did because the matchups that are there for this week are just great. Is myself versus House Reed.
Hey, don't spoil. Let's.
Well, are we talking about any more of these? Because I don't think we need to talk about.
I'm trying to let you on this right now.
Casterly whooped them.
Let the host do the transitions. Come on, Lewis, you're better than that.
I didn't know we were going to transition.
You did it yourself. We didn't know either.
Well, he lightning round.
This is
I just
improv.
went
It
with
was a
what I
good
wanted to
segue.
talk about.
As lightning round did, then you deep dived on a team. Anyways, so Woad moves on because they lost to Cobain. Casterly, as mentioned, put up over 100, so he doesn't get to move on in the trial of 7. Baelish does. And Santee versus Reed was the only other really close game or spot going into Monday night. However, it looks like Santee got bailed out due to a strong game by Andy Dalton. So that said, let's move into week 14. And, let's start with the Trial of 7 because, frankly, let's start low and build up. So let's start with the prime time matchup. Kamish versus Kamish. Truly what we were all expecting in terms of a clash of titans. Baratheon versus Reed. Lewis, what do you have to say for your team?
This is the matchup of the week. I'm hoping that I get. My team's been like, it's either scoring somewhere between. I think my low point this year was 17, so it's somewhere between 17 points and like mid to high 30s, or they all show up and I score 70 points. So if my team shows up and I score 70 points, it's gonna be close. So we'll see. I don't know if my team's going to show up because the main man that was carrying my team was Robbie Anderson. I traded him for Devontae Parker, who got me a measly 1.25 points. And then I also picked up Doug Martin, and he was out. So I basically got nothing of worth. And then the stupid Giants, when they wanted to play their younger guys, did not play Davis Webb. They played Geno Smith. So now with that change of the guard there, they're going back to Eli, so away from Davis Webb, and any chance I would have had to probably win. So I don't have a quarterback. I don't know what I'm doing for running back yet. My wide receivers are hit and miss. So we'll see. I don't think I'm scoring 70. I would imagine I probably struggle to make it to 30 this week.
You know that you've already achieved being castigated. You don't have to continue along that path, right?
I'm trying to do. What sucks is some weeks I actually try to set a lineup that's going to score points, and I get like I drop 17 against Bane for it, which is just like, okay, like I knew his team was good. I was going to try to score points because there's no way I was going to score 100 and whatever he put up. And I only got 17. So I would imagine that's one of the weeks that I'm going to get this week. I'm going to try to win, and my team will score minimum points.
So that being said, I'm pretty sure Fedora just got put back on IR, so you might want to put Ebron back in.
Oh, good idea. I'll set the old lineup right now.
Good idea. Anyways, anyone picking House Baratheon to upset House Reed in the Trial of the 7, or are we going to see a Brad in the final to represent his cast-mirrored house?
So this is going to be Reed's chance at a victory this week because he's not beating me in D96.
Ooh. I like the shit talking. Any other wild thoughts here?
Mm-mm.
All right. Well, we'll jump over to the primetime matchup in the Trial of the 7. So that would be Oathbound Maesters versus House Swan, who does actually have Jimmy Garoppolo in her lineup this week. Pretty sure she did not start winning last week. How do you feel? What your chances are, Justin, against the Tommy and Jimmy combo?
My chances are very good. Tom Brady's a poser, and Bill Belichick just knows how to play the bare minimum. He is not a mastermind. I've got Famous Jameis this past week, but this next week, he and Cameron Brate are going to go for 2 touchdowns. I might start Peyton Barber. Should I? I don't know. I might.
Over Yeldon? Yeah, I think you should.
And over Yeldon, I don't know. I was questionable like the last 4 weeks, so Yeldon's just kind of a blanket there.
Joe
I'm gonna
Mixon
crush
has that
her.
concussion too, so Gio Bernard might get the start.
I got a lot of guys that might grow into something. I'm gonna be the hand of the king. Children, I'm your man. Whatever, I'll whack some dudes' heads off.
Thank you.
I'll keep your checkbook. However it needs to work out.
We appreciate your support.
Oh yes, dilly.
Yeah, so I guess you know what? And now's a good time. Live on the podcast, I am declaring for the Old Town Maesters for the hands tourney. You heard it here first.
When you see me, I'm kneeling.
You're really diluting your Dak Prescott. You heard it here first with this pick. I think you probably looked. You're probably like a 20-point underdog. So I'm not sure.
I don't know. I don't set my lineup until Sunday morning.
Jordy Nelson's probably whatever
Thursday.
he's projected. You might as well just write down a donut. So I would take that off of whatever Swan's supposed to score. Other than that, it'll be interesting. She does have a big three in Brady, Bell, and Kamara. So we'll see how you fare. I'm not sure I like the matchup of playing both Jacksonville running backs against Seattle's defense, or Funchess versus Minnesota. So you've got your hands tied there with a pretty, steep matchups. So this might be a little tinkering. Like you said, Peyton Barber might be a nice start. Giovanni Bernard versus Chicago. So you got some options here.
I got Josh Gordon going to blow up against that Packers secondary that Mike Evans couldn't do shit against. It's going to come around.
Yeah,
Blow me up and up.
So. Yeah, Josh Gordon's going to score this week. Probably put up 100 yards. So it'll be awesome.
All right. Well, that being said, the Iron Bank will throw their support behind House One because they too have faith in Sir Tom Brady of the New England Patriots to continue being the baller that he is. So, well, nothing but respect for you, Old Town Maesters. Go House One.
So you'd rather be behind Swan than Justin?
Well, who wouldn't?
I mean, both are good spots to be. But anyways, and now for the main event.
It's sitting here for days. Start the damn jams before I piss this out. It's sitting here for days. Start the damn jams before I piss this out.
All right. Twice as nice because, well, it needed to be. We're talking about now the primetime matchups of next week, and I can't think of a better place to start than House Free Folk against the Children of the Forest. And yes, I needed to say House Free Folk because, well, why not? Anyways, since this involves your team, Eric, you want to start off?
Yeah. As I said earlier, I'm going off the rule that Tyreek Hill can't have a monster game 2 weeks in a row, so I should be safe there. Going against the beautiful Oakland secondary that just killed Geno Smith. So they got to be pretty good. Mark Ingram scares me because that New Orleans Saints running game is amazing. Antonio Brown scares me because he's the best receiver in the league. Russell Wilson scares me because he beats every defense. Luckily, they have Jacksonville, which has been one of the most hard matchups. So that's a positive for me. Jared Goff going against the Eagles, who are probably looking for a big bounce-back victory. So the matchups, they fare okay for me. I'm worried about his big guns, but otherwise the matchups aren't too bad for him. And then when you look at my team, it's who the hell I'm starting. I have Dalton or McCown. I can start either one. They've both been pretty good. I have Crabtree come back off the suspension. I'm probably going to have to start him with my big three receivers in Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins, and Dez Bryant. And then I'll have to sit either Jordan Howard or Hyde. They both were kind of disappointing, so it's not like they're making my job easy. And then Travis Kelce is my that's easy. I'm not starting Ricky Seals-Jones or anything. So that's what I'm looking at right now. Yeah, I don't know. I like my chances, but I'm very scared because I already beat him twice, and eventually, he's going to beat me. His team's really good.
Free Folk is interesting because he still has Zeke, right?
Yep.
And I believe he sell his first last week, or
Yeah, I think he sold his first for Ingram.
does he still have it? That was pretty. What week was that? It was
I think it was week 11.
Yeah, so he made it really far with what he's got, and shifting out Ingram for Zeke. He's right hand of the king. I seek to follow in his footsteps, but I think Dak's going to come around. But and Keenum and Russell, he's going to make the wrong decision.
What's with the crazy high projection for Mark Ingram? 32.23 points.
There's
Good
nothing wrong with that.
Lord, I don't think he had 30 points in a game this season. I gotta look. Oh, he did.
Not.
Week 10 against the Bills.
Yes.
So, they're gonna look for him to score his season high this week against in a matchup against Eric. So I'll take that. That's an accurate projection. 32.2.
I sure hope you're wrong because he's capable. He's more than capable.
I think it's interesting that he's got both Atlanta running backs. He's got Coleman in right now. I wouldn't be surprised if what Justin said comes to be a deciding factor here, because he probably will start the wrong quarterback. I would imagine he's going to start the wrong Atlanta running back. And he might start the wrong tight end. Cameron Brate got into the end zone twice last week, so
Free Folk,
we'll see.
Free Folk has a history. Free Folk has a history of making poor lineup decisions. So this, history shows he's not going to do good.
This is sounding good.
Yeah, but I'm going to pick Free Folk.
You've already declared. I'll let it be known that no one else in chat has declared for children. So we're on an island here, buddy. We'll get this.
It's
fear
going to be tough.
the beard.
Eric's right now a 10-point underdog. Part of that's because Mark Ingram's got the 30-point projection. So if you bring that back down to earth, even a 20-point projection is probably a little too high, but that's about what he's been getting. So you bring that down, and it becomes a 116 to 116 matchup. Eric's 5 points haven't loaded into the system yet, so I think my official projection for the week would be Eric probably around 121 and Free Folk around 116. So it's definitely going to be close.
Hot take: the home field advantage comes into play to decide this game.
Ooh, I like it.
I don't want that. I'm not going to enjoy. I'm not going to enjoy the whole day of football. As we check my phone every second. Oh, who scored? I like watching football and just like sitting there and like, oh, this is nice. I want, I could watch my players. Hopefully they do well. Like this week is just going to be, come on. I can't have this guy go off. Like I'm going to be rooting against Antonio Brown. That's like one of the worst things to do in fantasy football.
Well, what also could happen is this one could be over on Thursday night. Coleman and Ingram play. If he subs Freeman in or doesn't sub Freeman in, you might know by Thursday what your chances are of winning. If Ingram does put up his 30 points, then you're probably in trouble. If he doesn't have a good game, and if Coleman doesn't have a good game on Thursday, then you could be sitting in a spot where you've probably got it all but wrapped up going into Sunday, as long as your players show up.
It's true.
We know what they're projecting from Mark Ingram there to get to 32.23 points.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I'm curious.
I did not click on it to see what it's projecting, what it says he's going to get.
Yeah, it's not really showing that. I'm hovering over projection. It's not showing me either. So either way, yeah. I mean, this comes down to Dak. Honestly, he's going to need Dak to carry versus the Giants, which he hasn't really done well last year. And if I recall correctly, he had a pretty good game. I think a QB1 game, but he needs a probably top flight performance from Dak to make this work. So I got to pick Jordan just because he hasn't lost yet. So I can't pick against him. But at the same time, I'm definitely feeling that if Goff and Wilson can somehow keep pace with Dalton and Prescott, and again, it's the right time to play Wilson since he's got Jacksonville.
They are projecting Mark Ingram for 27 attempts, yards, 1.25 touchdowns, and 7.8 targets, 5.8 receptions. He is projected on yards. Next highest guy is 89, Le'Veon Bell.
So I'm looking at the record.
So that's a double entry. Nerd, I can tell you, Mark Ingram has 2, and they just added them together.
So if I do this year, top performances for this
Cut that,
year.
16. So they're projecting him at 16. They have a major data issue here.
So if I do top 50 performances for running backs. I'm just going to do this real fast. So 26. 26 would put him as the 28th highest performance of a running back this year.
Yeah.
Slightly ahead of Ezekiel Elliott in Week 8, where he put up, in Week 8, 33 attempts for 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 reception for 40 yards. So that's what NFL is projecting Mark Ingram for right now. So good times. But was it 26?
He can hit it.
Oh, no, 32. I undersold that. I'm sorry. That was a mistake on my part. Let me go back here. 32 would be the 9th best performance, which is currently held by Leonard Fournette. Week 5, where he put up 28 rushes for 181 yards and 2 touchdowns with 1 reception for 3 yards. So either way, very aggressive.
All right, so let's move on to the next matchup so we could finish this hopefully by the end of tonight. Next
Eric,
matchup.
let the host transition, please.
Well, Mike goes away. He doesn't know how long we've been talking about it, so I figured I'd step in and make sure we don't spend a full hour on this matchup.
Mike, go ahead, take it away.
Thanks, Lewis. I appreciate you looking out for me. Anyways, we've got
God damn it.
House Harding versus House Forrester. The other Dak brother against who he's trying to paint basically as the evil umpire right now, but is looking pretty solid. Forrester is projected for 143, but because he owns the other Mark Ingram, that might be a little bit out of whack. Point is, whereas Free Folk and Children is the game of the week, this is probably a close second if you ask me. Same kind of situations. Will Ingram show up and do? Will he put up the top 10 performance that everyone's expecting or no? where's Antonio Brown going to be based off of his performance this week? Can Keenan keep his hot streak going at the same time? Like I said earlier, what's Russell going to do against Jacksonville, who shut down everybody? And can Dak Prescott overtake the Giants? So, gun to the head, I got to take Forrester here. What do you guys think?
Who's he playing? No, I'm just kidding.
I'll start. Fuck you, Lewis. Aaron has like half the team I have. He has Dak. I don't know if he's starting Dak because he didn't start him last week because he's an idiot. And then he also has DeAndre Hopkins. He has Kelsey. And he has another receiver, Dez. So we have like half a team. So I'm assuming that if he does well, my team had to do at least somewhat well. So I'm going to say Harding wins this one in hopes that it helps me win. I don't know. I am picking Harding.
I'm sorry. Who was that tight end you spoke of? Kelsey?
Travis Kelsey. He plays for the Indians.
Kelce?
Yeah.
Chalky.
Kelsey, got it. Okay.
Yeah, Fred Travis Kelce for the Missouri Indians.
Got it. Fred, what are you thinking?
This matchup is ridiculous. I mean, looking at the lineups, I hate both of these teams with serious passion. There's not a weak link in the starting lineup for either one of them. It's just who's going to show up this week and who's gonna put up the points. I mean, do you count on Dak? Yeah, he's playing the Giants. I mean, do you count on Wilson? He's playing Jacksonville. Do you count on Drew Brees? Oh, shit, he's playing the Falcons. Oh, Phillip Rivers at least gets to play the Washington Redskins. So, he's going to go off. Just one after another, it's stud and stud and stud, and not a single one of these players. I mean, I guess they both have Jimmy Graham. So, they'll cancel each other out.
I think this matchup is definitely, due to the depth on both teams, going to be a would have won, could have lost scenario where this is a lineup decision. They've got decisions to make end of their rosters to say, hey, this guy's going to go off this week. I'm going to bench Martavis Bryant. He had a big game last week, but you can. We'll see. We'll see what separates the versus managing a week-to-week team.
All right. Your thoughts on this matchup?
They both went at it different ways. Forrester drafted his team last year and hasn't really made any big moves. Harding was Castemered the top teams in the league. Like this is really good.
Yeah, it's the first of the teams that really blew it up. I don't think any of the other teams in the playoffs at this point ever, I won't say tanked, but went struggling as part of their rise to power here. So very true.
Hey, well, that's not true. I mean, look at me and Bainfort. We had less than 10 wins together last year, so there's certainly some strugglers in here, even though only one got Casimir.
Fair. So yeah, no, I mean, I was more referring to the productive struggle. But point being, your team adjusted well. Bainfort's team adjusted well. I think both went for it last year, but were able to pivot. Whereas if you look at what Harding did formerly as Aaron, he had kind of built thinking he was going to suck year one and compete in future years, and is now here in year two. So
gotcha.
Similar format to what Maesters has done, what Tully has done, what Boer has done, and I think probably 4 or 5 others amongst the league. Anyways, moving over to Fire, we have 1 versus, this is 5, Iron Bank versus House Lannister. My matchup, so I'll kick off. A little saddened to probably lose Gronk this week, but hopefully it's a 1-week suspension and holds as a 1-week suspension. And got a ton of my receivers to carry me, dance with the date that brought me. So I think I've got the win this week, but I think it's going to be a little closer than I would like. But I'm going to be sweating for Monday night.
I hope you
How
both
many
lose.
points? How many points are you going to need from Brady Monday night?
I think between Brady and Cooks, I'm probably going to need 15 to 20.
10? 15 to 20?
Between those two, yeah.
Yeah, this Miami-New England game is not making for good analysis, as it were. Right? Last night's game was awesome for some of these matchups, but it's not going to really be the sweat.
Yeah, again, not having Gronk, Brady's got plenty of other options, so I could see him putting up points, but at the same time, I could see this getting out of hand quickly with the running game again. And I think this week, Brady put up, pull it up now. Only the spawner I played, so it's not going to show up in the score. But I think Brady was an 8-pointer, and I think Cooks was around a 5-pointer. So not exactly the performances you're looking for from 2-year top performers, but at the same time, I think I should have enough to overtake Lannister.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck who wins or loses this. I have the first round pick for both these teams. So regardless of who wins or loses, I'm going to benefit from it the probably exact same.
I would say Lannister losing probably locks him in at a lower pick than if I lost, but
Right.
again, it's like 1 or 2 slots, so I don't know. That's a fair way of looking at it. Justin, what are you thinking?
I think Banks got this on lock. This is ridiculous. I already said Lannister's hot garbage. Spending so much time. I mean, I know we're spending so much time. Bank, you've been a great podcast host all through all these. I want to give you some props from the peanut gallery. Walk your way to fire victory. You're going to lose to children in the finals.
Only children wins. I understand. All right. Any other thoughts about this matchup before we move over to House Baneford against the Darkest Timeline?
I would imagine Crabtree gets put into the starting lineup for, as Eric said, Cooper Coop. I would imagine he gets benched. Other than that, it's actually pretty close. But I would imagine the difference is going to be Mike with the home field advantage, but also having the second quarterback. It hasn't. I thought it would bite Lannister in the ass, which is why I went after his pick. But it hasn't all year for some godforsaken reason. So I would imagine that this is going to be the week where it catches up to him. I think it'll be close, but at the end of the day, not having a second quarterback is going to kill him.
Well said. Well said at the end of the day. Well said. Anyways, last but not least, Baneford versus Tyrell. Anyone want to say anything here? No.
I hope Tyrell wins. I mean, I have a soft spot in my heart for him, but Baneford's going to win. Guy.
Portal's canceling themselves out. Ertz canceling themselves out. So a 6-on-6.
Well, Ertz isn't even going to play, right? Who's got the better
questionable
tight end?
Well, I mean, Bainford's starting Ingram right now, regardless.
Okay.
And it looks like maybe Kittle comes in for Mr. Tyrell, maybe Ed Dixon, maybe Richard Rodgers.
Ew.
Yeah, it's so definitely the edge of if Ertz sits, I mean, it's just a bigger advantage for Bainford just because he has the immediate replacement. He can start somebody like Juju. If Juju's suspended.
Yeah, Juju's suspended, and Bruce Ellington's not going to play against San Francisco. I mean, Marlon Mack.
He doesn't have any flex players.
Marlon Mack might be the guy here.
If only he had Will
everything.
Fuller.
They could both start Ryan Grant and cancel each other off in that manner. I'm just looking, and obviously they're both starting Bortles. I'm looking at Bainford. I don't know if it's getting too pretty, but Garrett plays Tennessee, and from what I was at the Pittsburgh versus Tennessee game, and Tennessee's secondary is terrible. They've been getting lit up relatively regularly, so maybe you stick Gabbard in place of Bortles and just hope that he outplays him. I don't know, because there's a I do like to match up what my opponent has, but this one's a little Bortles could match. Ertz currently matches. Ryan Grant could match if they both move Ryan Grant in there. So it could be interesting, but I think this one also is going to, I would say it comes down to matchups, but both teams have terrible matchups this week. The thing is all fall colors over here: orange, red, yellow, brown, with the exception of the Evan Ingram matchup. So whoever said that being the deciding factor, that's probably accurate. I think it was Eric.
It was. Wow, you give me props on 2 straight podcasts. We've got to write this down in the record books.
Here, so let me take a picture. All right. So who we picking here?
Tyrell just
Evan
chimed
Ingram.
in chat. He said Cooks is going to go off. So
I'll take it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't want to root for Tyrell, but
I don't either, but I think he's got it.
who's the home field in this one? Is it Bainford?
Bainford's got it.
Matt Ryan versus Jared Goff is going to be the deciding factor.
Yeah, that's really it. But the Saints defense is actually for real this year.
It's legit.
I think Robbie Anderson's going to drop 30 points.
Against Aqib Talib?
The Broncos defense has given up. They're pissed off at this point and just checked out.
But
All
put
right.
everybody else. It'll be Bortles with 30. Or not Bortles. Anderson with 30. Bortles will have 11. Ryan will have another shitty game. Murray is garbage. I don't like Cooks. Funchess, I already said, is terrible in Minnesota. So it'll be Anderson, Sanu being the only ones to get points. This is going to be a blowout. Bainford's going to win by 40.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with Lewis here. I'm going to take Bainford. I think Bainford does bench Bortles because he's going against Seattle, and I think a good bet is that he's going to struggle. So if he can get the advantage of Tyrell starting Bortles, and he gets to start Gabbert, who hopefully just puts up a decent game, it could be enough to make up for his 8th flex, being Marlon Mack. But I think as the weeks go on, Marlon Mack's just going to be used more because the Colts aren't in it anymore. No chance. So maybe, just maybe, Bainford squeaks out despite having no depth. I mean, come on, you got to have some depth going into the playoffs.
So, wait a second. Didn't we just crucify a team for starting Blaine Gabbert earlier in the podcast, and now we're saying Blaine Gabbert's going to be the salvation?
Well, because they're starting Bortles. I mean, this is a nice conference.
He's playing Seattle.
Who has Earl Thomas left.
Yeah, but still, they're still a tough
Seattle
defense to play.
Seattle just shut down, PFF's favorite quarterback. The garbage game manager, Carson Wentz.
Is it not?
I think it's Carson Watson.
Wentz had, what was it, 46 passing yards in the first half. I don't know how you would expect Bortles to get more than that. Depending on, I wish it would say I guess it's at Jacksonville, so that's probably a little better. But I don't know. I mean, it could be a risky gamble. You got to risk it to get the biscuit.
Well said. And with that, thinking Tyrell is going to move on this matchup. Don't love Fournette, don't love Gurley this week. Hunt's been slacking. Those are three guys that really Bainfort needs to come through if he's going to pull this off, and I don't think any of them score double digits. So that said, Tyrell finds his way into the conference finals once again. All right, and that wraps up our projections. Any closing thoughts about anything playoff related?
I don't know. Woden and Baylor should going at it in the chat, so that's fueling their Heretic of the Realm matchup.
I like it.
So just quickly to wrap up, I'm gonna beat Free Folk. Harding's gonna beat Forrester. I'm gonna take Bank over Lannister, and finally I'll take Bainfort over Tyrell. Those are my semifinalists.
So I got Free Folk,
Fuck you.
Forrester, Bank, and Bainfort.
Justin?
I have everybody Lewis doesn't have. No, I'm just kidding. Let me look. Sorry, I was
So
getting
you
another beer.
picked Eric, Harding, Lannister, and Tyrell then.
No, I don't pick Lannister. Lannister's hot garbage. I would pick Tyrell, though.
So everyone that Lewis doesn't have except for me. I appreciate the support. Travis?
I've got a big game this week against Mormont in Marvel, and I'm playing against Reed in D96. So I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Oh shit! I have a Marvel matchup, and I don't have a tight end. Gronk's my only tight end.
That's unfortunate for you.
I have Deadshot in Marvel over Constantine.
Oh no, I'm not.
Sure.
Oh yeah, Deadshot is playing Con. Yes. That's not going to happen. No, I'm sorry.
I've also got what is his name? What is Reed's name?
Jeremy?
The Riddler?
Which one?
No.
Duke?
Yes, I have Duke City over Pork Chop Express.
Who's Cable in Marvel?
Cable is
Gus.
Oh, is that yeah?
He's the Bears and GM.
Yes, this guy.
Oh, that's great.
Goose Island.
Me and him had a feud earlier in NFL GMs, and now we get to play each other in Marvel. But I don't have a tight end, so yeah, great.
Now, Louis hasn't fixed the brackets yet.
You had a feud.
In where?
Marvel.
What's wrong with that? What?
It's got me playing Joker, and that's not right. But I should be playing Mormon or.
Louis been sick. Give him a break.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah.
Where are
Deadshot. Deadshot versus Preacher. It should be.
All right.
You're not even in the same fucking bracket. What are you talking? Oh no, never mind. It's down here.
So that's
No, it isn't. That's accurate. Aquaman's the 7. Oh wait, Joker's the 1. I got you. All right, I'll fix it.
Cool.
all right. Well, that brings us to the end of this podcast. I think we've been doing this for maybe an hour and a half, and I've only got 14% of my computer battery left. So that means it's time to go. Any last thoughts from anyone on the pod before we close this thing out?
Yeah, I'm going to. I don't think I've officially endorsed a team from. What's the The hand. So I am going to get behind the faceless men.
You'd like that, wouldn't you?
He would like that. He'd asked me to mention him on the podcast this week, so I chose to mention him by saying I would like to get behind him for the hands tourney.
I like it. Eric, final thoughts?
Yeah, if these are my final words, I don't know if you'll hear from me. I may not be on the podcast because I'm emotionally invested. I'm losing sleep. You can tell from the bags under my eyes. It's going to be a rough week. I wish Free Folk the best. If I lose a Free Folk, I'm pulling for Free Folk because it's a dogfight out beyond the wall. I keep saying it. And we got to represent and win the throne 2 years in a row.
This just in, Free Folk will be on the podcast next week if he wins.
Of course.
Yeah, Lewis?
What?
Final thoughts?
My final thoughts was I'm getting behind Matt of Faceless Men.
Okay, good enough. Travis?
Hashtag Team Children of the Forest.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Justin.
Welcome. Fold. I'd like to thank having me and thank everyone for listening and thank everyone else that aren't listening. And thank Reed for not being here and I could be here.
Well said. And Eric, any final thoughts on my voice?
Oh, hi guys. This is Mike. I love doing this podcast, but I'm really excited about my matchup. I think everyone picked me, so I got a super exciting boner.
All right, and my final thoughts are, again, thank you for folks for picking me, and should be a good set of matchups this week. I would say things about boners, but it's already been covered. Anyways, so thank you everybody for listening, and we'll see you next week. And we cover the conference championships and start taking a look at who the superlatives are for the year. So that would be the best trade, worst trade, what other superlatives do we have last year?
Best trader, worst trader.
We're gonna have a sloppiest hoe this year,
Ooh,
and
nice.
I think House Clegane is gonna win that one.
Ooh, sloppiest hoe. You mean after
Yes, that's there's been a lot more guests this year, so I think that's going to be definitely hard deliberations.
That's true, and there has been a throwing for yards type iconic moment.
Yeah, that was a clean sweep. There was no arguments this year. It's going to be a debate.
Well, I mean, dumping wine on the hotel floor probably takes that one.
I mean, somebody could still light fire to their couch on a podcast. Not that I'm endorsing that.
I'm just saying that's what it's going to take. So if you would like to be host of the year or guest host of the year and set fire to your couch next week, please feel free to join the podcast. Anyways,
Louis is going to eat pork testicle on the live cast.
Have a great week.
Fuck that.